Good evening, everybody. This is 15 Minutes with Uncle Russ coming to you live from Axe Cafe in Koh Samui. Welcome and hope you had a great week. Yeah, this has been a week of complete blessing. God got me some clothing and all kinds of stuff. Yeah, so I'm a very happy chappy. So tonight, I'm not going to sing or anything. I'm going to save you that pleasure. You're probably saying it's a blessing that I'm not singing. Don't be like that. Okay, come on. And I've picked a nice little story for us. And you can see I'm unplugged now. It's just the cell phone and me. And it's called Cinderella. Do you all remember the Cinderella story? Such a sweet story, eh? Yeah. So, I went and I did some research. How old do you think the Cinderella story is? No, it's not. It's really, really, really old. In fact, she started off as it says as a Greek girl. Yes, in Egypt. And the story goes she was busy having a wash, and an eagle came and took her shoes, one shoe, one sandal, and flew. And the king of Egypt was busy doing the judge thing. And next minute, the sandal falls from the sky onto his lap, and he sends his men out and says, whoever has the sandal, I'm going to marry. And then over the years, it changed a bit. There's over 500 versions of Cinderella. But I'm going to tell you this one, if it's okay. All right. So let me be sure that I tell you the whole story. So it always starts like this. Once upon a time. It's so stupid. A girl named Cinderella lived with a stepmother and two stepsisters. Poor Cinderella had to go work hard all day long so that the others could rest. It was she who had to wake up early in the morning when it was dark, start a fire, cook the meals, keep the fire going, and she could never stay clean, and she was always covered in ashes and cinders. That's why they called her Cinderella. One day, big news. I wonder if it was like on breaking news. Prince coming to town. I don't know if they did it. Maybe they had one of those loud hailer guys, the town crier. And he would go, "Hear ye, hear ye, the prince is coming to town looking for a wife." So everybody was like super excited. And then the two stepsisters, they were like, amped. And they get all of Cinderella, and then they force her to make them her dresses. We go on, and the one sister's going, "Come on, faster, faster." And the other one's saying, "Is that a dress? It's absolute rubbish." Yeah. So and then Cinderella says, "But I was hoping to have time to, stepmother. Time for what? To make my own dress to go to the ball." No, you're not going to any ball. You're going to clean the house. You're going to make sure the dresses are done. And besides, who would allow you to go to the ball anyway? You're just like dirty and everything. The reality is Cinderella came from middle upper class people, so she would have been in line to marry sort of up. But because now with the stepmom being like she is or like she was, and the stepsisters, they gave her no opportunity for anything. So anyhow, the ballroom gowns are ready, and the coach arrives. That would have been old school limo. Yeah, it would have been a coach. So the coach arrives, and the two ugly ducklings and the mother get... Okay, I shouldn't have said it. The two stepsisters and the stepmom get into the coach, and off they go to the ball. And there's Cinderella. "Bye. Hope you have a nice time." I wonder what she was really thinking. She was probably swearing under her breath, but they don't put that in the story. And then she goes into self-pity party. "Oh, me," said Cinderella sadly. as the carriage rode down the street, she said aloud, I wish I could go to the ball too. All of a sudden, in front of her was a fairy. I mean, it's so dramatic. You called? Said the fairy. Did I? Said Cinderella. Who are you? Why, your fairy godmother, of course. I know your wish, and I've come to grant it. But, said Cinderella, my wish is impossible. Excuse me, said fairy godmother in a huff. Did I not just show up out of thin air? Yes, you did, said Cinderella. Then let me be the one to tell you what is possible or not. And then the story goes on. So she takes a wand and taps her on the head. Gives her a little whack on the head. And immediately she's all cleaned up and she's got a blue ballroom dress. Typical. She doesn't say, oh, shop for the dress. Oh, how am I going to get there? Well, call an Uber. I'll come and pick you up and drop you off. I don't know what they would have called him back in the day. But anyhow, this fairy godmother takes a pumpkin and some mice, and then she pops the pumpkin with a wand, a magic wand. Notice, I'm going to get back to this whole magic wand thing. And the pumpkin turns into a beautiful carriage, and the mice turn into horses. And off she goes. And the driver says, please get in, and off they go to the ball. And everybody's like hanging around at the ball, waiting for the prince to ask them for a dance, all trying to look their best. You know what it's like when you go and you're scoping out the competition. Yeah, you're probably thinking, she didn't really wear those shoes, did she? Oh, look how bad her dress looks. Because you know how people are. They talk about people all the time. Yes, just to make up for their own stupidity. So, what happened then? So she's at the ball, and she walks in, and all of a sudden everybody stops dead, and their eyes are fixed on the stranger who comes into the ball. And the prince looks up, and he's like, oh my, heck, who that? He got super excited. Because I think some of the other aunties there, those young aunties, had warts on their noses, and you know what I mean, they weren't going to be picked. Anyhow, so he says to her, introduces himself, and he goes, oh, have we met? Well, she says, no, I'm pleased to meet you now. I feel as if I know you, says the prince. Hey, how's that for a line? Hey, didn't we meet somewhere before? Your face is very familiar. No, you never met me because I was busy cleaning ashes and fire and cooking. Yeah, like a scarabonk. So, he says, but of course, but that is possible. And so she says, many things are possible. So then he just feels this leap in his heart. Yeah, I think he got a little bit amorous, if you ask me, but they say it was a leap in his heart. Okay, so what he says to her, would you like to dance? And they dance, and they dance, and they dance. Dance the night away. Yeah, and everybody else is like getting miffed because why is he only dancing with her? What about me? You know how much I spent on my hair and my nails and my dress, and they're all chirping and churning, and so they were not happy. And so anyhow, and they was like, oh, how rude. We come to his ball and he's not interested in dancing. Well, there must be a reason for it. Maybe that hairpiece and, the tinted lenses that you put in your eyes and the big eyelashes that you stuck on, because what's so amazing sometimes, not always, sometimes, the person that you meet isn't always the person that you think that they are. They got all the other goods. They look amazing. Please, don't do a video call. I haven't put my face on. How do you walk around faceless? And the face that you do put on doesn't belong to you anyway. It belongs in a bottle. Here we go. Oh, and so they're like dancing away into the wee hours. And then, dong, the clock strikes. And Cinderella suddenly looks up and she goes, uh-oh. And then she hears, dong. And she looks up again and cries out, oh, it's almost midnight. Dong, 3 dongs. What's the matter, says the prince. Dong, called the clock. I must go, said Cinderella. Dong went the clock. But we just met, said the prince. Why leave now? Dong rung the clock. I must go, says Cinderella, and she ran to the steps. Dong, said the clock. I cannot hear you, says the prince. The clock's too loud. Dong rung the clock. Goodbye, said Cinderella. Up the stairs she ran, and dong went the clock. Please stop for a moment, says the prince. Oh dear, she said. 1 glass slipper fell off her foot onto the stair, but Cinderella kept on running. Dong, said the clock. Please wait a moment, said the prince. Dong rung the clock. Goodbye. Cinderella turned one last time, and she rushed out the door. And the final dong. It was midnight. 12 dongs. A lot of ding-dongs, if you ask me. Wait, called the prince. He picked up a glass, rushed out to the door, and we know the story, what happens from there. He decides that whoever's foot can fit into that slipper, glass slipper, he was going to marry. So he goes around the kingdom testing, and you can imagine all these aunties with their big, wide, fat feet, trying to squeeze it into the little glass slipper. Not going to happen. They said, no, I'm sure it'll fit. They put a little bit of Vaseline and then, even wrap their feet up and tight and no. So eventually he ends up at their home, at stepmom's and sister and Cinderella's home. And the mother goes, quick, come, check this one. Flatfoot didn't fit in the slipper. Then he goes to the next one, that was flatfoot and the other one was fatfoot. Sorry, fatfoot. And she also tried. And then he goes, is there anybody else? And Cinderella comes out and says, yes, there's me. And she goes, no, anybody else that counts, goes the stepmother. Anyhow, the short of the story is, puts on the slipper, he realizes it's her, and they get married, and they live happily ever disaster after. Yeah, so now I have a few things to say about Cinderella, the stepmom, the stepsisters, and the fairy godmother. Yes. So here's the thing. Why is it that we go around wishing, I wish I had a new car and I wish I had this, and we hope that a little fairy godmother will pop up and whack us on the head with a magic wand so that we can get what we want. That's not what the Bible says. The Bible's quite clear. John 14:14 says this, if you ask anything in my name, I will do it. And you notice Jesus didn't take a little wooden stick and whack you on the head. No, there's power in his name. And here's a little issue that I have with Cinderella. So we're like, oh, how cruel. How can the stepsisters? Why was she envious of the stepsisters? They were going to a ball. They were invited. She never made them, she didn't crack the nod. And so she was envious. I know it doesn't say that, but I would imagine she was, because she would, if you think about it, oh, I also wanted to go into the ball. Proverbs 24:1-2 says, do not envy evil men. Do not be envious of evil men, nor desire to be with them, for their heart devises violence, and their lips talk of troublemaking. Sounds like those step aunties, eh? Yes. We mustn't be envious about people in the world. Let them carry on. If they want to do stuff, we encourage them to accept Jesus. We encourage them to come into the faith. But we don't become envious oh, they got a bigger car than me, I work so hard and I'm so righteous and they're unrighteous and they get all the money. No, don't do that. That's being envious. So it's being no better than the world. James 4:3 says, you ask and you do not receive because you ask amiss, that you may spend it on your pleasures. Lord, I really need an increase. Lord, I really need this. For what? So you can spend it on my pleasures. Tricky, eh? And the stepmother, I think stepmothers have been given a raw deal, personally. The assumption is that a stepmother is always somebody bad. No, it's not. I mean, you need to understand from step-parents' point of view, they are embracing a new family and a new way of life and everything's new. And the stepchildren generally, they won't accept them and they do all kinds of ugly things and say all kinds of nasty things. Yes. Am I right? Of course I'm right. But the stepmother, what I do have against her was the way she spoke to Cinderella. She treated her like a second-class citizen, like she didn't belong. They came into Cinderella's home. Yes. But Cinderella had to work like a slave and wait on them. Proverbs 18:21 says, death and life are in the power of the tongue, and those who love it will eat its fruit. Now, the fairy godmother. Guys, listen to me carefully. There's God, and there's Satan, and his cohorts. The cohorts can come in the guise of fairies and goblins and dwarfs and... Come on. Let's be real. If you have to use magic for something to appear, God is a creative God. He speaks it by His word. And He says, if you ask for anything in my name, so it's the authority and the power in the name of Jesus. It's not some magic wand. It's not doing some incantations or spells or something like that. No. And so we need to be careful in what we teach our children and what we do. Because, we do all these stories for our kids. Oh, Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. Yeah. Or what's that other? Yeah. And then the Wicked Witch. There's always a witch in the story. And then there was the good little witch. Seriously. Look at 2 Corinthians 11:14. And no wonder, for Satan himself transforms himself into an angel of light. Let's be careful what we are following and what we are doing. 1 John 4:1 says this, Beloved, do not believe every spirit, but test the spirits, whether they are of God, because many false prophets have gone out into the world. Oh, if you follow me, man, I can get you to do this and get you to do that, and we'll call up your mom and we'll call up your dad and we'll do all these things. Don't do it. Just don't do it. And then finally the prince. The prince comes there and he's so chivalrous and so nice and so that. Remember, he's human. Yes. And though we do respect and honor them in their position, we don't exalt them to a place that is ungodly. Now I can tell you about a prince that's worth lifting high and glorifying and worshiping. His name's Jesus. Isaiah, and I'm going to finish with it. Isaiah chapter 9 verse 6 says this, For unto us a child is born, and unto us a son is given, and the government will be upon his shoulders, and his name will be called Wonderful, Counselor, Mighty God, Everlasting Father, Prince of Peace. If you want a real prince in your life that's going to worry about you, that's going to take care of you, that was willing to die for you and your sins, his name's Jesus. Jesus of Nazareth, the King of Kings and the Lord of Lords. So there you are, Cinderella. You can choose between Cinderella and the fairy godmother, or you can choose the Prince of Peace, where you'll have everlasting peace, joy undescribable, and be loved for who you are and accepted for who you are, where you will find your true self and your identity. Thank you so much for listening to me. Yes, so I'm going to say ta-ta and goodbye. And remember one thing, if I don't see you through the week, I'll see you through the window. Goodbye.